All right, so I'm going to do 000000 webhost.com. And what we're going to be doing in this video is looking at how we can connect to our database. And let's pause this. Here we are in our 00 webhost file. I'm going to go ahead and click Manage Website. And I would suggest that you're working out of a clean browser. Most of us have like 12 or 13 things open. Change it out and dock it, but that way we can just focus on working out of our file manager and then going back here to our database. So in our website here, we're going to need some information about our database. So I'm going to click Tools and click on my database manager. And the three things we're really going to need to know is what our database username is here, our database host, and our password. If you remember before, we saved that into a text document in the previous video. Um, Now, if you're having a lot of trouble getting into this, just make a new database. You can create a second one and we can connect that way. So let's go back into our file manager here, public. And if you remember last time, we had a contact HTML page that really just has a form and some code we copied from W3 Schools. And that form, we created a contact.php page. So the fact that when we hit the submit button, what it's going to do is it's going to call up that contact.php page. So let's take a look at that. So let's close this. And then when I go to my, uh, um, well, we have an index page here, which really just has a name and then has a reference to the contact.html link. So let's see all of that in action. So I'm going to right click on index. I'm going to hit view. You can see here's the HTML. If I click inspect, you can see this is a way of looking at the way that we coded it for potential employers. We're going to build something a little more advanced than this. You don't want to send something this simple to them. And then here's our contact us form. Now when I click submit, you can see it says welcome to PHP land. If I hit inspect, what's really cool about this is notice it hides a lot of our code and it just shows it as a body, right? It's hiding our PHP code, which is really nice. So I'm going to click back a couple. So I'm back here again. And inside of here, let's look at our contents of our contact PHP. Remember, the way you create a PHP page is just with this question mark PHP, and then we have an echo statement. So let's go ahead and take a look at, well, what do we have to do to connect to a database, right? So the first thing we're going to need is a few variables. And if you're completely new to this, the way you create a variable in PHP is a $sign and the name of the variable. So we're going to need our server name. And our server is actually this right here. So if we go back to manage database, our server is our local host because our server is stored on our local web host machine account. So I'm just going to paste that inside of here. The next thing I'm going to need is a username. So I'm going to $sign username. And I'm going to make that equal to, and actually I don't even know my username on the top of my head because it's this big long abstraction here. So I'm going to copy that, go back into here and just paste it inside of here. The next thing I need is my password to my database. So password equals this. And my password was a auto-generated file. So I'm going to go in, grab that password and paste it inside of here. Now I have my password blurred out just for safety reasons. I don't know why anybody would want to hack into this, but maybe if I'm using this to apply for jobs, then, which I plan to do in later videos, we will, the issue could be that, somebody can go in there and mess it up before I get my new fabulous position. All right, so we have our password here. So let's go ahead and start looking at creating a connection, right? So I'm going to do a $sign connection. And what this is going to do is it's going to create the connection to the database. That's what this chunk of code is going to do down here. Now we're going with an object-oriented, which is sort of a nicer, newer approach. And we're going to say we're creating a new connection. And what we're doing is there's a class slash constructor that exists called MySQLi, which stands for improved. And then we're going to do open close parentheses there. Now, what this needs is three parameters. It needs a server name, our username, and our password. So I'm going to go ahead and double click this guy, copy that, paste that in here. Double click this guy, copy that, paste it in here. And then I'm going to copy this one and paste it in here. Now, this will give me an error. I don't need that third comma. All right, so I'm going to save that. Oops. I'm going to save it here, force a habit. Now, the next thing I need to do is check if our connection to our database works. So what I'm going to say here is if open, close curly braces. Let's make sure I'm using a curly brace there. So if this connection right here, and I'm going to do an arrow that's pointing to, if this connection does not error out, and there's a pre-made sort of, uh, there's a pre-made command, it's connect error. Now, if our connection does connect error out, that means if it doesn't make a connection, it can't find any of those values we're plugging in. What we're going to use is this command called die. And what it does is it executes a command. First, it executes a print statement. So it takes two parameters. So the first parameter that it takes is something we want to see. So this connection does not work. And the second thing we want to do is really just copy this whole thing here, and we want to execute this, which disconnects it. So what this is saying is if this connection is broken, we're going to disconnect it. Now, what do we want to do if we do connect? Well, we got to let somebody know. So I'm just going to echo out to my page, right? So echo, and we're going to say connection is a success. So let's save that. Sorry, again, force a habit. And I'm going to jump back here to my page, and I'm going to refresh this, and I'm going to click to contact our team. So let's click that, and I'm going to hit submit, and you can see that we have an error actually on line 14. Now I know what that error is, and there's a purpose behind that. So let's take a look. So here we are at line 14. Now, how did I know there was an error there? Well, one, I pre-planned this, and two, do you notice there's an X here? And this X is telling us that, hey, there's an unexpected comma here. Inside of this, there's really, you don't put a comma here. I was just using that to sort of explain what the two parts to this method that's running is. Close this out, let's hit save. You can see it's still registering an error, but let's go ahead and check this within our browser. So I'm hitting save here. Let's go back, right? And let's refresh this. And you can see now it's saying, hey, there's an error here with a connection, and the inside in this connection there's a variable error. It's expecting something, right? So it's going through all this stuff, and that's on line 14. So let's go back. Here's line 14. And the reason for that is there should be a dot here, because this is this part of this thing is here is we're saying, hey, this dot is a dot property that's connecting it to the actual connection, which is this variable that we have here. So it's like saying this connection should error out. So notice that it got rid of that X, and I'm going to hit save. Now let's try this and see if we actually get a successful connection. So if I hit submit here, you can see connection is a success. Connection is a success. Excuse me, I've been talking all day. So I'm going to end this video here, and in the next one we'll take a look at maybe passing values back and forth to those forms.